Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we're going to be talking about a journey. How did we get where we are today? Are we working in professions, helping others heal, helping others find the way? We are saying, oh, goodness, I really knew that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to help others. I wanted to be in the medical profession, the dental profession, the hands-on healing profession, or a religious profession. And we kind of grew up with that, and we kind of, over the decades, have expanded our knowledge, our experience, and all of the patients that we've seen. I know for myself, it's probably upwards of maybe, 750,000 or something. We've topped that many decades ago. And we say, oh, we feel that we've helped. But then all of a sudden we look back now in the year 2022 and we say, goodness, I really wanted to keep doing some more, but there's more that needs to be done. How can I touch them on a deeper level? How can I provide medical services that are now up to date with today? How can I help them heal even further or be able to find services? Health, healing, wellness of body, mind, and spirit has really evolved over the decades. And we look back and we say no longer is it you just go to the corner doctor or else he would come to you at your home, as he did for me in the 50s, and give you a shot of antibiotics. You were good to go, and it was like a miracle. Everything was wonderful. Now we look at these decades, and we're saying, goodness, people are getting sicker and sicker. How can we help them? We help them by saying perhaps maybe your neighbor could get you some food. Perhaps others could find you a safer place to live. Perhaps it's time to look at changing the way or the job that you're doing and maybe find something safer to improve your health. It's a real expanded kind of way of looking at your life. As we call it a holistic kind of life, it's really saying that there are other people, other ways to help nourish your body, mind, and soul. Today, my guest is Dr. Milton-Haber. His book is A Grand Slam Life. A physician gets COVID, finds his way, and works to transform a Texas community. What Dr. Haber will be sharing with us today is how he, over the decades, wanted to be able to help others and feel better with all of his medical professions, but also knew there was something more that he could do as he helped his neighbors. But then now, in the year 2022, he knows he needs to go further, and how he expand his own knowing to be able to help his community. Dr. Haber, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
I'm so happy to have you, Dr. Haber, because I think our professions have really evolved over the decades, and those that haven't, I think, have gone into research, but those who have are still in patient care, don't you think?
I think patient care has been I agree. I think patient care has been a really important part of my life. And over 30 years practicing medicine as an internist in my own community where I was born and raised, really has created an incredible impact for me personally, and as well as many patients that live here in this community and the surrounding area. And it's been a remarkable career, but, I was missing something. I was missing something more than just taking care of my patients in this community, and I felt that I wanted to do something a little bit beyond daily practicing in internal medicine. I went right into clinical research, which has even made my life much more important. It has a greater purpose, and just as good as fulfilling seeing a patient in my office, doing clinical research has also been very fulfilling and meaningful, and I've had the opportunity of talking to many researchers all over the world.
Don't you think, though, that Dr. Haber, is that missing part was is that you said you kind of had to help with the need today. In other words, it might not have been that you were doing research, decades ago, but now we know that you take all of your expertise of all these decades, and now you say, we need to go further. We need to push the envelope, and you're helping push that envelope, right?
Yeah, and I have, and that envelope has opened greatly here in this community, because before there was really no clinical research being done in this area. And now we have a multidisciplinary research entity that many specialties are involved: oncology, GI, internal medicine, nephrology, and they're participating in these clinical trials with us, and it really enhances the quality of care in our community.
Yeah. A long time ago, it used to be that clinical trials were only open to people who had, as we call it, platinum insurance, because they were very expensive to be in a clinical trial, the medications or the drugs, therapies or treatments. And it would only generally be for a select 1% of the population. And truly what you're talking about in your area in Texas is serving a different type of community to be able to improve the quality of life. It's a community that has not been helped in the past. Don't you think pretty much they were just pushed the old ways and the old traditional therapies and treatments, and they're like, well, if they died, it's what the process of life is supposed to be. They weren't given any extended hope because they didn't have the platinum insurance, right?
That's right. But now, if you look at the population of patients that participate in clinical trials, 1% of the minority population participate in clinical trials throughout the United States, and 1% of the physician population participate in clinical trials in the United States, which is now changing. I think what changed it was the awareness of clinical trials. Unfortunately, with COVID-19, that the clinical trials were put in the forefront in the news, and now people all over the world are aware of what clinical trials are all about, and what clinical research, the definition of really what clinical research is about. And so the awareness has opened many doors with regard to patients participating in small communities. And for example, here in Laredo, there was never a clinical trial being done, and now in the Moderna trial that we participated in, there's been over 400 participants, and that is something that I'm really, really proud of. With regard to the basic medical care that's been going on in small communities, many patients still go to bigger cities and larger communities because there's a lack of medical expertise or medical practices in these small communities, and Laredo's a good example of that.
Don't you think, Dr. Haber, you share in your book, A Grand Slam Life, you share how you pretty much, from an early age, you were guided. It's the story of your life, and I can feel it as if there's a guide there. In other words, doors opened. You were in a situation. Something else showed up. Don't you think that that's truly when you can say, am I listening to my calling, and what is it showing up for me? Because right now, there's a lot of people who are saying, I don't really know what my mission or my purpose is in life. And they're kind of looking to us as elders and saying, how did you get started? What did you find? What did you see? And why did you end up here? And in essence, what we're truly saying is we were guided along our path. So it's not don't follow our path. It's find your guide and see where they're taking you. Don't you think that's true?
Yeah, it's very true, and I think that as a young boy, I was pretty tough. As a young boy, I was rough. As a young kid, my mother used to chase me all around the house to try to spank me because I was so bad. But something, I believe that my parents really focused on me being independent and having independent thinking. And I think that was very important. I think that they allowed me to express myself for the way I am, and they wanted me to search for who I am. And even today, I'm still searching. And I think that's by doing what I'm doing now with clinical trials and being in private practice, I think that mission is always evolving and changing, but it provides so much meaning. And I think that every person, if it's not medicine, or if it's another specialty, another profession that anyone is doing, it should have a fulfilling, meaningful purpose. So they should have some purpose behind what they're doing. And for me personally, I think my parents didn't guide me to medicine, but they sure guide me in believing in myself. And I think that really counted.
Yeah, I think that's so vitally important, because a lot of times people will say, well, why did you go into medicine? Did you go there for the pomp and circumstance? Well, decades ago, it was about pomp and circumstance. Or you can have an MD or an ND or whatever you want to have it, or a doctor in front of your name, whatever it is, And they believed it was for prestige, when in essence we were truly guided. Because just as you shared in your book, hey, was I a straight A student? No, in undergrad or in high school or whatever. But I just knew that I needed to study and I needed to be able to show up. And we did well, and we made what we needed to do, and that's how we got to our positions today. So I think sometimes people will say, but, I don't have what it takes. And then the essence is if you're being guided, you have something, some quality of helping others heal or helping others feel that healing nature, and that's what we're trying to give, don't you think?
Yes, and I think that healing is always there. You're always getting healed one way or the other, and that guides you in fulfilling your goals, your mission, your purpose, and it's always evolving. It's amazing, even in the research that we're doing now, and the changes that we're making, and the improvements that we're making, it really gives the definition of what we're talking about, and that is that evolvement and that purpose, and that is really the key to everything. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have the purpose. You have to have the direction, and you can't do it alone. You have to have people that work with you, that guide you and help you, and even people that have passed away, like my parents. They were good guide for me. But there's others even today that are around me that are great leaders and guide me and trying to help me fulfill that purpose and what we're doing.
Absolutely. Let's, Dr. Haber, also talk about the idea is that while we have the knowledge, we have the knowing and the purpose and the mission, we have the guidance, but also we take it a step further, just as you shared in your book. You can hand out all the antibiotic prescriptions. You could hand out all the testing equipment. You can hand out all of the other drugs that they may need. But if you don't say, do you have a roof over your head? Do you have enough food on the table? Do you have someone that can get you from this visit to the other visit? There is, forget it. It's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? In other words, the body does not exist in this drug-induced kind of state where I give you a drug, it's going to create a miracle, and you're going to be, standing up and professing. You really need to have all of the tools around you. You need to have someone to care for you. You need to have a home that has a roof. You need to have others who could maybe cook you some soup. You need to have shoes on your feet. How many people don't have shoes on their feet these days? And we say, no, that, I don't know what you're talking about. But you in Texas, myself here in Louisiana, we truly know this. I mean, we just came off of a hurricane. I just got my roof, the hole in my roof fixed now, just this recently, and it's 3 months later. I still have broken windows and stuff, and people are still living in tents down the street, and they're all, sleeping in their cars, So we know what it takes to be able to get to the next step, and we find a way to insist, to enhance that process. As you shared in your book about asking and helping others and asking others to help those in need is the way to create a circle of healing, yes?
Yes, it is. And in fact, in my own community, it's one of the poorest cities in the United States, and it is a challenge. Just giving medicine and giving antibiotics and getting X-rays and EKGs is just not enough. We really need to understand those patients at their way of life, the way they're living, the way they breathe, the way they it's. And I'm very fortunate to be born and raised in Laredo because I've been around this environment all my life, and it's changed, but we continue to have the same problems of poverty, of poor nutrition, educational deficiencies, and efforts that have been made by community leaders. It's remarkable, but each one of us needs to help our own community. And as a physician, it's not just giving medicines. We have to go into their homes. We have to understand their upbringing, their traditions, their way of life, and that's, I think, a physician or a member of the city council or whoever. I mean, even your own neighbor needs to lend out a hand and let them participate in helping your neighbor, and that's really something that's why I'm so fortunate coming from here, because of the fact that I see exactly what you're asking. But you're telling me, but I could tell you, this is all over the country and all over the world, and I think a lot of us have lost focus on that.
Yeah. I think also, too, what you and I have really witnessed, as I can attest to that, is that we are from an area, we understand it, we can feel it, pretty much because we may have experienced in the past. I know I have, I know what it meant to not have a place to live. I know what it meant to not have food on the table. I know what it meant to not have right medicine. I know what it meant when I went to the ER and I was a single parent and they said, we can't give you this medicine, but we'll give you this medicine, but we'll take your kids to foster care until you get out of the hospital. I'm like, no way, and that's not going to happen, and not get the care. So there is a lot of, I think, support within communities. There's also a lot of support within cultures, because here in Louisiana, people will support you. The nurse will say, hey, I'll take your kids. Don't worry about it. No big deal. Go get what you need and I'll take them home and we'll be okay. Or even in your community, within the Mexican community, it's very vital that they support each other. And you see this over and over and over. You don't even have to ask for it. They just kind of line up and show up. Don't you think that those are the type communities that we want to bring forth and bring awareness to? Because these can spread if you're willing to be open to allowing that to occur. Don't you think?
Yes, and I think the mission of each community is to bring a better life for those that just do not have that the fortune that some people do have. Lorraine, it has been a frustration for me for years because of the fact that the Latino population, that is the majority population here in Laredo, they're incredibly good people. They're incredibly cultured. They're incredibly religious. They're incredibly centered. And as a physician, my goal is to help those that live in my community and surrounding area to make their lives better. And I could tell you that there's so many physicians throughout the United States that have the same purpose. is to help our communities where we practice. And that's what makes me feel comfortable and feel good in the mornings when I go to work, because of the fact that I know that I'm continue to do the work that that purpose is to help our local community.
Mm-hmm. I think the purpose is to spread hope. And that's truly what we're looking for. We're not looking for everybody's body should be absolute perfection, saved and rescued all the way till their deathbed. What we're looking for is improved quality of life so that they can exist until their last day, whatever that last day may be, for their soul. You know, I think we kind of forget that and lose that in translation, because just as many people in many cultures will tell you, I know here in the area we've got Cajuns and Creoles and, you know, and every single race, color, and creed and ethnic backgrounds here in New Orleans, that everybody will say to you that truly it's about, I just want to be able to get up and do my day. You know, if tomorrow's my last day, so be it. You know, and I think the idea is that to have an attitude of, do I need rescue? Do I need perfection? Or do I need to have a wonderful life? And that's what we're really talking about, just as you shared your book. A Grand Slam Life is about, you want a wonderful life to do the best that you can and to help others. And that's period, right?
Right. You know, Doctor, I could tell you that here in the border, you know, given the Border Patrol agents here, what I notice about the Border Patrol agents is that they support each other like family, like military family. They support each other. They become family to each other, even through illness, through the holidays. Mm-hmm. And I think that they're a very good example of how we can learn from this. And there are tens of thousands of Border Patrolmen here in South Texas, and I know quite a few of them, and their support for each other is quite evident, quite clear. And I think that they would be a very good example if we could just learn from this and learn that we all could work together and support each other like they really do.
Yeah. Also, too, the idea when you actually got COVID yourself, and that's when it really shifted you around to be able to go into the research. It's sort of as we experience, we so too learn how to heal, and we bring it forth to others. So really, when you got COVID and were in very dire shape, you said, whoa, I don't want others to experience this. Let me find a way. And that's how you brought the research to be able to bring it to your area, yes?
Yeah, when I was in ICU, I was really in dire straits. I couldn't even get out of bed, turn over in bed. I was very short-winded and in ICU, and I got very frustrated. I wasn't angry that I got COVID. I was just so frustrated. They took my cell phone away from me. Right. My wife and my kids could not come in to see me. I could not talk to anyone on the phone. My physicians came in and examined me, and it was a very difficult time for me. In fact, I was so upset. I said, just imagine me as a physician. I'm so upset. Just imagine the patient that does not have any medical experience or medical knowledge, and how frustrating and frightening it would be for them. And I realized then and there that I have to talk about my personal experience with COVID to make people realize that I was just as frightened and just as concerned about my own welfare and well-being. And I was just so angry that there was just so much kept away from the patient as well as the family members. It was a very difficult time for me. And I could imagine how difficult it was for other patients and family and other families.
Yeah, because we kind of knew what was coming down the pike, you know what I'm, so to speak. In other words, we understand the lingo and the language of the medical community. We kind of knew what it meant to be intubated, or we knew what it meant to be in ICU, or to have this or that or the other procedure done. Yet others really lived in great fear. And I think it was a very scary time for almost everyone. It was kind of brought to the point or the edge of the mountain, so to speak, of fear and what's going to happen. Even just the other day, I had gotten an email, from some of these newsletters, and his capture line was, "Do you think humanity will survive?" And I went, whoa, I wonder, we feel like we're up against it all the time, what's going to come next. But we can't live in fear going forward. What we can do is heal and be in the moment. And really, with your work, when you help people, you are here in the moment. You don't know what's going to come down the pike, but you can see what you can do today, right?
Yeah, and interestingly enough, when I was discharged from the hospital, I went right. I was at home for a couple months recovering, but I still worked in the office by doing telemedicine, and I felt really good about that. People need to understand that COVID-19, in my opinion, will never really go away. It may be an endemic illness in the future, an endemic disease, but I think COVID-19 will be part of our lives for decades, and we have to learn how to live with COVID, just how people lived in the turn of the century living with influenza, and the communities need to get together and help each other, and communities at large, I think, have done that. But there's still so much misinformation, so much confusion. Still, there's confusion, and I think that things need to change. I think in the political arena, not necessarily with leaders, but political arena with regard to educating the public and making them realize, that this is going to stick around. This is not going to go away. And I think that I think we need to learn how to live with this disease for decades. I think that's in my opinion. I don't know how other people feel about that.
But I think the most important thing that really the process of the past several years brought up is taking care of self. Hey, you need to clean up your act. You need to start having clearer exam rooms. You need to have your home a little bit cleaner. You need to be able to pay attention. Hey, I don't go to work when I'm sick. Oh, my gosh. I mean, I've been in healthcare for eons, just as you have. And how many times have we gone to work sick? I can tell you. Raise your hand. 100% we did it, right?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and other people also, too. So I think the idea is now that we're saying you need to kind of look at it a little differently now. We need to improve our health. We need to watch what we're eating. Fast food places weren't open. So, hey, maybe you should start cooking for yourself. Maybe you should start noticing what you're putting into your body or what you're buying or what's around you or how to make a meal and share it with others. People didn't have money. So the idea that how can I support you? What is your need today? People learn that. So I think really the experiences is what have we learned in being better human beings, don't you think?
Yes, and I think that COVID-19 has created a better awareness of who we are, not only as people, but as physically in their well-being. I've noticed that in the last year and a half, the patients are more aware of COVID-19, but they're also more aware of their medical conditions they had prior to COVID-19. Right. And now people are asking about colonoscopies and asking about endoscopies and asking about getting routine mammograms and pap smears and I think that awareness has really, I think COVID-19 has really shifted gears and made people more aware that taking care of their own bodies is really very, very important. During the period of COVID, as you all know, doctor, that, they stopped doing colonoscopies, they stopped doing mammograms. And, but now these procedures are back and there's a greater number of patients that are doing those procedures for preventive care. And I think that's really, really quite important. And I think that physician and the patients being aware of that, I think is a very positive thing. And I think that needs to, and I think that will continue to get better as years progress. I think the patient population is more educated than they were before COVID, to be honest with you.
But Dr. Haber, don't you think also, too, post that event, there's also more free clinics. There's also more access. There's also more grants. There's more available insurance. There's more ways to get a free test, to get free help, to get what you may need on a maybe sliding scale or whatever. In other words, people are learning that they are needing to give these things to the patients more, and I think the idea, if that comes up, will be a lot better in serving, because I will honestly tell you, I'll raise my hand and tell you, prior to COVID, if you did not have A, B, C, or D insurance, you weren't getting the test. I don't care if you wanted it or not, or if it was required or not, or if it was necessary or not. You weren't getting it. And now the idea is, okay, well, maybe it's not in it or whatever, but how can I get it? We're taking it a step further and saying, oh, I'm not destined to die because I can't get it. They're saying, well, maybe we could do it a different way, or maybe we could find a different place, or maybe we can find a second opinion or whatever. In other words, people are learning to stand up and say, I'm not just taking what the medical community is saying is truth. I'm exploring, learning, and going out and helping myself in the process.
Believe me, that's so true, and I see that every day in clinical practice. People are asking more questions. Their interest has shifted. They're more positive. They're taking things into their own hands with regard to taking care of themselves. And I think that, yes, I've seen greater assertiveness with regard to patient care, right, with each patient. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do clinical research, because I wanted to do something a little bit beyond of clinical practice, because of the fact I said, why is it that all the clinical trials that are done throughout the country in major cities are done in major cities but not in small communities? And I said, that's not right. I mean, the majority of the patient populations in small towns, the majority of them may be minorities, and they have never been exposed to clinical trials before.
Right.
So what I've done, and I know it's not in the book, but what I've done is I started a franchise and starting to do clinical trials in small communities, and to bring clinical-based trials to these small communities, and have these physicians in small communities that participate in clinical trials, and having those patients in those small communities participate in razor-edge medicine in small communities throughout the Southwest. And I think that's something that we're doing now. That's my goal now. That's my direction. And I think the minority population in the South and South Texas needs that. And I think this is an opportunity for us to enhance medical care and research in South Texas. And I think that's something that I've been working on now for the last 3 years.
Yeah, I think we really want to drive home that every human being is a viable part of the society, of this earth existence. Everybody has something to contribute, rather than believing that there's only a quantitative kind of things that you can use on a checklist to say this is what's okay for us, and everybody else is just, they're not on the list.
I think everyone should be on the list. I think every human being, if they want to participate in clinical trials, let them participate in clinical trials. Let them get educated in clinical trials. Yeah. The only way that we're going to improve with regard to medical delivery and medical treatment is through clinical trials. The clinical trials marks the difference in enhancing medical care. And the minority population in the United States has not had the voice in clinical trials. They've only a very small percentage have participated in clinical trials, but they're crucial for clinical trials because of the fact that some of them may have greater morbidities and morbidities and could enhance the result focus on the minority population is really crucial, especially coming from the South and knowing my community and the surrounding area. I think it's just, I just love the fact that we're doing this, and I love the fact that the South Texas and these small communities will participate in razor edge medicine and with those doctors that are practicing in those communities. And I think it's just absolutely amazing. And I just love the fact that we're making an effort to do that.
Yeah, it's just showing that every human is value. You know what I mean? We've come to a point where people felt very devalued, getting very low-paying jobs, I mean, waitresses, $1.20 an hour. Are you kidding me? Well, that might work for a real exclusive hotel, but it might not work for the grill around the corner kind of idea in supporting them. So I think the idea is we're really learning how to support each other, how to bring value to every human being, and how to be able to create something that we are all working together in this system that works instead of the system that is against each other. We're no longer trying to pit each other against, well, I have it and I got to have it bigger, and you don't have it, well, tough for you. We're really showing ourselves that we can step up and be better people. And I think in closing, Dr. Haber, can we also talk about the idea is that this is how you and I have been working for years, is a shift in a mindset for many physicians, because many physicians, especially the older ones, just as you and I in our age group, have been brought up a certain way, and they may or may not have been exposed to doing things differently.
Yeah, some people have the old ideas and they don't change. Mm-hmm. But there are so many physicians and researchers and scientists throughout the world that do change. And those that do change in the medical field, in the medical research world, really enhances and changes people's minds and ideas. And if I could bring clinical research in these small communities, these physicians will participate in something that will make them change and improve their own quality of practice in those communities. And maybe enhance other doctors, other physicians, other medical students to practice in those small communities to improve their community's quality of life. And you know something? The purpose of my life is really, it has been a grand slam. It really has been, because of the fact that I've had such a great private practice. I come from a damn good community, and I'm still learning. I'm still listening, and I'm so grateful to be in the position that I'm in, and it's just a blessing that I'm doing what I'm doing now, and what you're doing is spreading the word around, making people realize that they are important, and I'm glad I participated in your show today.
I'm so glad to have you, Dr. Haber, because I think that the idea is that if we have grown over many decades, or many of our ancestors, they did not feel that there was a place for them in this country or this world or this earth. And I think truly, if we could stand out and say, you know what, you have value, you're showing up here today, and I honor you no matter what condition you're in. Maybe you didn't take care of your health before, but I can help you going forward. Maybe you don't have those services. Maybe we can help get those lined up for you. Maybe you don't have food on your table. We can get you some social services and see how we can support each other. My gosh, you got to go home at the end of the day. Instead of feeling burnt out, you go home, oh, really cool. What's the next day going to bring? Instead, how many of us have over the decades said, man, I don't know if I could do that again, or how many days, the stress level or the burnout. Burnout and stress levels don't exist when you're really supporting each other, because you're feeling a circle of energy. don't you think?
Yes, and I tell you, with me personally, the mission that I have is I mean, I have incredible energy to do this, and most people in the community where I live, I could tell you that they do have that energy. They want to do better. They want to improve their quality of life, and I think that improving themselves physically and mentally, and getting educated and helping our neighbor, I think would just make life all around us better. And in our community, I mean, when I was born and raised, Laredo was 32,000 people. It's 250,000 people now. Laredo has changed, and since starting research, Laredo has changed also in the medical world here in our community. We still have a long way to go, but you know what? We'll take it day by day and improve things day by day, and that's why I'm not going to retire. I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I think it becomes it's almost as if it's like a God-given path. How can you say no? You know what I mean? I just don't understand that. People will say, well, you shouldn't this, you shouldn't. It's like, I don't understand that, you know. It's almost as if you work from, you don't know. You just get up and you do it. You just don't even have to think about it. And you look at others and they're like, why'd you do that? And it's sort of like, I don't know. I just knew that it was needed to be. Or I knew what the next step or next path or next book or next pen or next patient or next drug or whatever it is, it just shows up when you're in that space and time, right?
Yes, and in fact, that space and time continues to grow. And I can tell you that, it continues to grow, and it's fun. It's amazing. I think that it really brings you down to earth and realize, hey, you know something, we have some work to do. And that's why it's so important.
Well, Dr. Haber, it was definitely you're bringing life to souls, and you're bringing value to humans. So I truly believe, as we shared on the radio show today, that is really our goal. Yes.
Yes, it is. And I want to thank you again, Dr. Gallagher, for being so nice to me and inviting me to your program, and looking forward to keeping in touch with you.
I'm so happy to have you. Dr. Haber, can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work?
You could look us up at Milton Haber at Facebook, and we do have a website for the research. It's called Laguna Research.
Very good. Well, Dr. Haber, it's such a pleasure to have you. We thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you. If you'd like to find out more information about Dr. Milton-Haber, again, the book is A Great Slam Life. A physician gets COVID, finds his way, and works to transform a Texas community. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to his website and Facebook page for more information. And it truly is about, where are you today? Right where you're standing. What is your work you are doing? How can you expand it to help others feel value, to feel touched, loved, cared for, and secure in their communities? That's all people are asking for. They're not always asking for a perfect body. They're not always asking for a brand new car. And even so, they're not even asking for a brand new house. If you can just offer them a patch, give them some soup or some feed, or perhaps give them a hug, maybe that's all they need to be able to heal their soul and heal their human being in the same time. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr-jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.